Age of Empires 2 is a game where sometimes things go wrong, and then a lot of other times things go right. Now, where you're going to land when it comes to that die, a lot of it is up to you, and some of it is going to be up to your opponent. And then sometimes, hey, there's always that old lady luck, right? In this game, right, this is a really interesting game that I wanted to showcase for you all, and as you can tell from the title, right, it will feature Cav Archer play. I really like Cav Archers. I think that they're kind of a tricky unit to make use of, but I think they're something of a fan favorite, and they're one of my favorite units. So anytime I have a game that involves Cav Archers, win or lose, I should say, I like to bring it out because, again, I think it's a tough unit to use, and so we can learn a lot from our losses as well. Now, let me go ahead and set up this game, right? Just let me make sure that we are streaming effectively. Okay, perfect. So, I'm playing as the Japanese, right? And I'm not really going to do a build order kind of thing this game, but I will talk about some principles here in when we get to a bit later on in the game. And I'm playing with Japanese. The berries are nice. Gold is nice too, right? It's a really wallable map, actually. And so, I actually really like my map here because we can defend this forward main gold. My opponent's playing as the Burmese, and if we just expand out a little bit more, really nice main gold spot. His map is pretty wallable too. The berries are a little forward for my taste, right? He'll probably have to wall a little bit further out, I think. Probably more than you'd want to. It would be a good idea actually just to wall to the edge of the map. So you might have to spend a little bit more wood to wall this base up. But it's not a bad base either. So I think we both have some pretty good maps here. Now, here is the dilemma that we face when we're in this kind of a game, right? Japanese have a really strong men-at-arms rush. Burmese also have a pretty strong men-at-arms rush. Japanese have the better Dark Age bonus, and so right now what I'm thinking is what I want to do is go ahead, let's open up with this men-at-arms rush, put the pressure on, and probably what's going to happen is that our opponent's going to make men-at-arms, we're going to meet him halfway, and that'll be that, right? And so we'll probably trade those armies. That means that what I can do if I play archers, I can force him into maybe playing archers as skirmishers, and Burmese are not the strongest in that area. Now, if we take a look what's going on here, right, you can see that there's some scout fighting action, and it looks like, right, trying to get a little bit of damage, but my opponent here is actually some really good micro, forcing me to run away now. I know I'm not going to really be able to escape, and, well, we're going to lose a sheep. We're going to bring one in. My opponent decides to chase it, and probably should have gone back to my base, but I haven't found him yet, right? I haven't found my opponent yet, and so, you know, I'm thinking, well, let's just go out and see if we can find him. This is actually probably a mistake, right? So that's one of the first things I want to highlight. Something I did really wrong in this game is that I went out. I should have just gone back to the TC because, now the reason I didn't was because I thought, well, do I want to show him where my TC is? Do I want to go back? Because then he's probably going to lame both of my sheep. Probably should have gone back to keep the scout alive because you can probably only run for so long before all the turning and twisting and hills catches up to you. And in the end, right, we did manage to take one sheep back that, you know, is ours. So we only lost one sheep. And if we go ahead, right, take a look at our view here, right, we really don't know where he is at all at this point. So not the best situation for us. And something important to keep in mind, we didn't let it affect our idle TC time that much, and we should be able to click up here. Boom. Okay, so not a bad build. We do have some idle eco time that seeped in there, and while our opponent during that fighting actually kept his economy going fairly well. So nice job for our opponent, who is also going up on a 20 pop time, right? So I was kind of thinking my opponent would want to go for something like scouts, excuse me, something like men-at-arms, but it doesn't look like we are seeing that at all, actually. It looks like he wants to go for probably a scout rush, which again isn't the worst strategy. Now, what are we doing here, right? So look, here's the thing, right? Let me actually go ahead and pause. We we're down some sheep, we're down a scout, we don't know where he is, right? This is a critical part of the game. Now, I could make 3 men-at-arms, right? And have gotten a barracks up and spent all those resources doing that. And then send those men-at-arms to aimlessly wander the earth in search of our opponent. Which, you know, we actually can't even rule out if he's down here, right? We don't see any, like, 3-tile golds that let us know that that's more of a neutral area. We have a lot of the map we need to explore. We don't know anything yet. And so, I could send those men-at-arms, but at that point, what am I really getting out of the men-at-arms rush, right? If I send the men-at-arms out wandering, and he goes men-at-arms, and he sends them forward, then what happens is that I don't have men-at-arms at home to defend, and now I'm being attacked by men-at-arms, and I don't even know what I'm attacking with, right? And not only that, but that gives them time to prepare, right? I'm not going to hit quickly with the men-at-arms, and so it really defeats the point of going for men-at-arms. So we call an audible here, and the audible is to go 20 pop, but think about playing not only an archer defense, but also just going ahead and trying to get walled up. This is one of the great things with Japanese, is that because you're saving so much wood on your resource camps, you can actually go up on a pretty early population and still have a decent bit of wood left over to be able to get up early and get up walls early, right? And so that's what we're going to go with here. We're just going to go ahead, right, and say, okay, I don't know where you are, and guess what? I don't care. I'm going to play this defensively, right, and then try to make archers so that I can have some kind of defense. So, right, you can see here we've got the walls up going pretty good here. We're going to get walled up in this area, right? And we're playing some big walls too, right? Because again, I want to keep a lot of my defense. I want to keep a lot of my base defended here, right? We've got the food. We're queuing up vills, right? And we're going to have the resources here to get what we need. We're going to get a barracks up. Boom. Put that bad boy up. Lay down some walls. And you can see my opponent, right? My opponent's up. He had a little bit of idle time, and he wants to play scouts, right? So, if he'd been playing something like men-at-arms, I think he would have still been kind of late, because we could get these things down pretty quickly. As you can see, I'm going around getting these in quickly. It'd be kind of tough for him to get around. I think we still would have been fine playing defense at that point. I don't think they would have gotten in, but he would have obviously had an archer follow-up behind it, which is going to be a bit more difficult to do in the feudal age now, right, where he's going scouts and investing a lot into scouts, and we are keeping him out so he can't really see what's going on in our base. And in fact, let's just take a look at our opponent's vision here, right, see what he sees. Yeah, so he doesn't know anything, right? So our opponent, again, he decided that he was going to scout for... he was going to take out my scout, and so he didn't get any vision on what we were up to, so he doesn't really know what my base looks like, which is really good because it's kind of hard for him to know exactly where to press on. And hey, we're going to get these walls up, right? And so we've really, in this decision, we've kind of hurt this attempt to go scouts, and our opponent actually he makes a pretty smart move here. And actually, let me pause. So in this situation, right, you really have, I think, 2 basic options as the scout player, right? You can either keep making scouts and then send some forward villagers, try to get some range or maybe a tower up so that you can punish somebody who's playing a bit more defensively. Or what you can do is you can just decide to, hey, okay, he's walled up, let's not make any scouts. And our opponent actually hasn't made any, so, which is actually pretty decent for him because he hasn't invested all that food. And you can do that and just, hey, let's go fast castle. We'll get up to the next stage faster than this guy. And, you know, we're Burmese. We're a pretty decent knight civ for 1v1s at least, right? Fully upgraded cavaliers. And we can just roll with that. So that's what our opponent, you can see that what it looks like he's doing here, right, is that he's going to be, he's just going to get walled up himself, right? Spend the resources to do that. And he's not going to invest in the scouts, excuse me, because it's going to be pretty tough for him to get in. Looks like we don't have any holes in our base. And I'm actually going to play archers here again. I don't know what's coming, right? I still don't even know where the guy is, right? So what I want to do is I want to make some archers and just see what I can do here, right? Make a few. And at this point, I'm making some decisions here. Now, something I want to point your attention to is I did get Horsecaller, right? I got Horsecaller because if I'm going to play a more defensive strategy, what I want to do is make sure that I'm actually getting more of an economic benefit out of this, right? This is something I got to give a hat tip to Survivalist on this point, because I've heard Survivalists say this, and I thought it was just a really smart, really good advice. And so I got Horsecaller, so that way, right, I'd have much more food on these farms, and this opens up an interesting possibility for me now. What this does is it opens up the possibility for me to go Cavalry Archers, because Cavalry Archers are very wood intensive. They're an expensive unit. And so what you don't want if you're going Cav Archers is for farms to be expiring in the transition up to the Castle Age, right? Because you're having to invest so much wood into those farms. If you want to remake them, really what you should be doing is probably sending villagers to the wood lines, right? But now you're not going to have the food income to get lots of resources you need. And so it's really much better for your economy to go, if you want to go Cav Archers, right, to have Horsecaller, so you can stave off some of those some of that wood cost and be getting the food out of it. Now, right, I'm going to send these 4 archers out, though. I haven't decided exactly if I want to go Cav Archers, right? I'm giving myself the option, the opportunity, as my opponent, right, is going to get up to the Castle Age. He's just clicked up. I'm sending out these units, and I decided to go this direction because I've already been over here. I didn't see anything. Might as well scout here. And lo and behold, right, hey, there we go, right? We wound up, right, patrolling into this area. And so, right, we've patrolled into this area, and now we found him. And now we're going to skirt around his base, seeing if we can find some damage. And if anything, maybe we can just idle his base just a little bit here. And at this point, I've actually decided that I want to go for Cavalry Archers, right? And so I'm only making the 4. So maybe he thinks that this is going to be more of an archer play, but really what this is this is just a scouting force. Now, in retrospect, something I probably should have done is not get fletching on these guys to do this, but I thought, well, maybe I could be in a position to get some Vil kills, and so having fletching might have been nice. And you can see my opponent here is actually investing some resources into skirmishers so he can defend a little bit. He only sees these 4. In fact, let's go ahead, right, switch over to his vision, right? Because his scout is dead. We killed a scout. He doesn't really know what we have. He doesn't know what we're going for. So now he's kind of in the dark. And we have a bit more vision. And so he's up to the next age. We have not even clicked up yet, right? We've just been banking a lot of gold, which, trust me, we're going to need. And now we've finally clicked up to the next age. And so, right, we lose an archer here, right? Reacting a little slowly as my opponent is, picks up a kill there, right? And again, what we're just doing here, right? We're just wandering around trying to find some damage. And now let's go back home, right? So we have 1 range. We have 3 ranges. Now, let me actually pause here. So we're behind. Like, this is, we have, it's true that we have a villager lead right now, but that's just because we've been in feudal age for a bit longer. Our opponent does have a little bit of idle TC time, right? Just maybe a couple of Vils worth, but he's up to Castle Age. We don't know. He could be on 3 TCs, right? And so the thought process here is that you can see that I've sold the stone. I'm worried that I'm behind, and my worry is that he is going to go with a really population efficient unit like knights. And so a great counter to knights are cav archers, because once you get with a good mass of them, you can hit and run very effectively. And so, but given that we're we're almost 2 minutes away from Castle Age, there's a decision point here. And the way that we're going to have to do this, right, to get those cav archers, is we're going to have to go with at least 3 ranges here. As you can see us getting upgrades, right? We have a lot of gold banked up, and that's one of the things I'm looking at. And I just decide, yep, this is what we're doing, right? We're going to go with 4 range cav archers, right? We want to take advantage of these Japanese wood savings, right? And we scout around here and we find a stable, right? So the stable for me, as we're just going to run away now, the stable for me is the signal that, okay, yeah, he's probably going knights. And I actually didn't see the second stable, but it looks like he's got it. He's getting to 3 town centers. Again, this is a game where we could be falling behind in the villager population really, really quickly. And I'm just circling these guys around, but my opponent, right, very cagey, right, he cuts this area off. Because again, I'm just trying to explore here. I don't have a lot of knowledge about what's going on. And we're about to click up to the next age here. We're there. We're going to get Bodkin Arrow, immediately queue up 4 cav archers, right? Because the reason you want to go for like 3 or 4 cav archers is that it's really hard for most civilizations to keep more than 2 stables running. And in fact, a lot of civilizations can really only keep 2 stables running for a short period of time in early Castle Age. And it usually winds up being 1 stable, at least for a little while, until your eco gets up. So we should be able to get up to a pretty decent number here, right? And now what I want to do is I want to be able to actually take these cav archers, make them, and get damage. And so, right, the objective then here is I'm just going to go, since I've sold my stone, because we're committing to this aggression, I want to get early ballistics, so that way the knights can't run away from me, right? So again, we're investing everything here into making sure that our cavalry archers can actually go out there and get some damage done, right? So we're, just trying to keep this, right? We're trying to get this army going, and we're going to want to send it out and eventually do some damage. We're getting wheelbarrow up and running here, right? These cav archers just want to get a little bit more. Again, we have a ton of cav archers queued because given that we're expecting knights, right? We want to be able to go out there, right? As you can see, we have, right, 12 cav archers out in the field. This is definitely more than enough for us, and we're going to go ahead and send these bad boys out. We have ballistics, and now we're going to go ahead, we're going to get husbandry so we can hit and run more effectively. Again, we're putting everything into the possibility of hit and running, and now we're going to go, right, we know those stables are there. This is good. It tells us he's got units, right? Very good. And now what we want to do is we want to go figure out what's going on in his base here, right? See a Vil? Boom. That right there, that was the power of ballistics, right? We're able to get a villager kill. All right, we've got that villager kill. And now I'm teasing right here. I'm hitting this palisade. This is more to just keep him in that town center so he doesn't jettison out, to create a little bit more idle eco time. I actually don't go in there because I don't know what he has. I don't think I would have gotten that much damage, and the worry is that I could have gotten trapped here. And actually, that's exactly where these knights were coming, right? They were coming to try and trap this army inside of his base. And again, with cav archers, you really want to preserve the mass of cav archers, right? As you can see, we're getting thumb ring. We're investing all of our resources in here to getting this massive cav archer army, right? We have 22, right? We have 23 now on the field. And again, we're trying to play this. We're trying to play this aggressively here, trying to get some damage, and we're going to go with forward siege because now it feels like we have enough cavalry archers to be able to hit and run knights. We basically have all of our upgrades except for the second armor upgrade. So we are in a pretty good position with these cavalry archers, and we're just going to go ahead and put the pressure on, because if we can put the pressure on this part of his base right here, where he has these 2 stables, he's not going to be able to make anything out of those stables because they're just going to get gunned down by these cav archers. Now you can see, right, my opponent decides, hey, okay, we can attack. Let's try and counterattack. But we realize this pretty quickly what's going on here. And we're able to play some really smart defense, getting the houses up here, getting the houses up there. And I actually take a moment to go out and try and hunt down those knights to see if I can catch them. But this was actually a really, really big risk on my part because now the siege workshop is kind of open. But fortunately, right, we're not, right? We just kind of run them down. We can't find them. All right, we're looking around for a little bit. Oh, nowhere to be seen. Okay, let's just go back, right? Because again, we don't want to leave this area too undefended. Now, our opponent actually does something really interesting. He's deciding to go for redemption so he can convert siege. Super, super interesting here. And he's investing in skirmishers to deal with these cavalry archers. I mean, this is one of the things that makes cav archers such a difficult matchup is because once you have a big mass of them, making knights is really not going to cut it. Because they just get hit and run, and it just winds up, being over at that point. Skirmishers are good defense, but the problem with skirms is that when you're Burmese, you miss the 2nd armor upgrade. So you can get Bodkin arrow, but your skirms are really, really, really going to suffer, right? And so what we're doing here, right, we're just going to, take out these stables, right? Try and destroy them. And now we're starting, right? As you can see, we've fallen behind a little bit in villagers, but now we're going ahead, right? We're on 2 TCs. We're about to get the 3rd one down. And so we're doing a pretty nice job here as these knights try to come back around, but it's going to be tough sledding for these knights. There's really not a lot they can actually do there, right? As you can see, some skirmishers hanging out here. Interesting. So, right, we're going ahead, we're putting the pressure on. I feel a lot more comfortable just like destroying these stables and knowing that we're just dealing with skirmishers. Because the thing with skirmishers, they're nice for defense, but you know what? I can run away if I want to, right? As we see the monastery coming up, right? I believe a 2nd or 3rd monastery. These knights come in, right? Get sacrificed for the cause. They do almost nothing with the against the cav archers, and we're not in a bad spot. Right? We've picked up 5 villager kills here, and again, we can send this handy little siege ram here to go get some damage. And now we're making a mangonel. Gonna try and pop this bad boy out, right? Because again, we want to put pressure on this TC. Really nice shot with the mangonel, right? We get a lot of damage on that, forcing those skirmishers to back up, right? We have a really healthy group of cav archers, and right now we're just putting the pressure on, right? Keeping our opponent on his toes. We're gonna go ahead, send that bad boy back, right? Again, no point in sacrificing it to these skirmishers. And again, since Burmese don't get the 2nd armor upgrade, we can take out these skirmishers really, really easy. Now, this is the point of the game, right? We find out, oh, our opponent has redemption. But again, look at, right? We're dancing, we're moving, we're bobbing and weaving here. Cav archers right? Again, I'm telling you, like, cav archers, if you can get them in a good mass, are a great unit. And you got to remember with Japanese do have fully upgraded cav archers, one of the few civilizations, right, to have them. And will be actually one more fewer in the next once we get the next patch, right? I think only Japanese and Saracens, right, are going to have fully upgraded heavy cav archers that don't have some other kind of bonus. So it's actually a pretty special unit for the Japanese. And what we're doing right now, we're just trying to get some kills here as we're going to try and get this mangonel, move it out of the way. And we have the pressure on now. You can see, right? We've put a lot of pressure on our opponent, making a lot of idle time. We've taken out 6 villagers. And again, right, that's given us actually a pretty decent lead in terms of villagers. We're at 10. We have a 10 vill lead. And our opponent is making a purely defensive unit here, right? And we're about to have the resources to even click up. And what are we going to do? We're going to keep the pressure on here, making this forward castle. Now, this is a little risky, But it's one of these situations where I'm looking at the score and I'm thinking, well, you know, we probably have a decent lead. He could be up to Castle Age because honestly, we haven't done a lot of direct damage to him other than, you know, getting about a half a dozen bill kills, putting some pressure on, right? But we know he's been investing in the skirmishers. We know he invested in the knights. And so my sense is that even if he's up a little earlier than us, then he's been investing in a lot of other things. And so we should be in at least an okay position to have this forward castle. And also take this stone here. We should be in a good position to try and repair it as well. So it's not the worst spot to be in. And so again, we're going to have even more stone now. And now what I'm doing is I'm setting up, right, as my opponent's getting to the next stage, I'm setting up, right, the trash unit complement to my army. Because again, this forward castle means that the siege unit I'm probably going to go for here is trebuchets. My trash unit are going to be light cav. Japanese light cav are... they're pretty mediocre, right? You do get bloodlines. You miss the last armor upgrade. You don't get Hussar. So, honestly, I think in my light cavalry tier list, shout out to that. I recommend you go take a look at that. Light cavalry-wise, I think that they're probably like a C tier, and maybe more like a D tier in late game, honestly. But maybe a C tier overall. Because, again, you have a pretty nice scout rush with Japanese, honestly. And hey, in Castle Age, your light cav are fully upgraded at least, so that's something to be said. But right, we're going to right in this matchup. What we want to do, we want to raid. We want to get some good raids in. I'm just going to go ahead and delete that mangonel right there, so it doesn't get used against me. We could have taken it out pretty quick, anyways. And right, my opponent's an imp, but notably, this is an interesting thing, right? He doesn't have a castle up. Right, he didn't wind up getting a castle until he looks like he just got the stone for it. So this is actually really good for us. If he had had a castle in an early imp, I would have been a bit more worried about my castle, even though we have so much stone now that it's not that much of a worry. And now we're up. We're going to go ahead and get Bracer. We've already got the upgrades on our light cavalry. And so now the mission is all about, right, getting to our unit combination. You can see that we're selling some resources, even selling a little bit of this excess stone. Why? Right? I want to get trebuchets producing. I really want to start going after that economy and seeing what kind of damage we can do. If we can get in, right, that sort of thing. Going ahead, getting Parthian Tactics. In a few days, I'm going to release a video on Parthian Tactics. Stand by for that. That one is going to be a very exciting one. Our opponent gets a castle up. I guess it's not the worst castle. It does kind of protect this area, but it's not protecting the meat of his base. It's not bad, though. This area is pretty well defended down here. And you can see my opponent is wanting to go with Cavaliers and Skirmishers, and we're going with Heavy Cav Archers and Light Cavalry. So, and, you know, these are two, right? He's getting to a good unit comp for him. I'm getting to a decent unit comp for Japanese, right? And so we can see, though, the fact that missing +2 armor on Japanese light cav makes the skirms actually a lot more effective against them. I still think it's a good unit for this circumstance, but it's worth noting, right, that it's not without its weaknesses. But that's not where we want them, right? We don't want them fighting against skirms. We want them fighting. And so we're going to go ahead, right, try to break in here and just kind of keep these guys running around, right? We're getting our villager count up, right? We're at 100 vills now, and you can see, right, this is a part of the game where you know, something you want to do, keep making villagers. 100 vills is definitely not enough. We probably want to be closer to, like, probably more like, you know, like 120, 125, maybe even 130 here. But we are in, right, our opponent's base. We're making light cav, and now the raids begin. And this is exactly what we want to do, right? We want to start these raids and see if we can hurt our opponent's economy, because he's making units that both cost food. So if he doesn't have food, then he's not going to be able to replenish them. And, right, we're just sending units in. He's trying to protect this trebuchet. He does have the hill advantage, but right, this is not enough Cavalier, and you can see, right, we're going ahead, right, we're getting heavy cavalry archer, right? We have heavy cavalry archer on the way. It's going to give us a little bit more damage, a little bit more HP, right? And right now we're just making, right, our light cav. We've gotten a lot of villager kills now, right? You can see that we actually haven't lost a villager in this game, right? And we're racking up vill kills. We're going in here trying to protect these trebuchets, and right, this trebuchet has given us a little bit of static. Probably should have researched masonry at the university, but we're just going to go ahead, right? Going ahead now that we have heavy cavalry archer. We have a little bit more of that HP, and we have Parthian tactics. Just going to go ahead, take this fight, and the cav archers, right, against the skirms, they have enough, right? They have enough armor on them to be able to withstand that fight. And so, ooh, you can see, right? Actually, we'll just go take a look at the stats. Take a look at the stats here just pretty quickly, right? We have good eco KD. Economically, we did a pretty decent job. Look at that Burmese wood upgrade. Free wood upgrades probably helped him out a lot, actually. Thinking about it, like when he was an imp, that means he already got the third wood upgrade for free. You see, pretty decent times, I think, our opponent, right, a little bit ahead of us, getting to what he wanted to do. And taking a look at the society, right, we had a lot of, we go back to the map, we had a lot of economic kills, right? We had 33 kills. We actually didn't lose a villager, so some good defense by us in this game, and I'll tell you, that is definitely not usually my strong suit, but it was a situation where we played some defense in Feudal Age, and because our opponent decided that he just wanted to turbo up to the Castle Age, that allowed us to come back into the game, and because we invested so much into the cav archers, that allowed us to take map control in a way that actually it made it difficult for our opponent to push out, right? Heavy cav archers is not often a play you see with Japanese, but it's actually really, really strong because you get great cav archers with Japanese, and so I think cav archers are definitely something you should consider as a great power unit. Really, the only difficult thing with them is just the light cavalry is very mediocre, and so you can't really afford to throw them away like you could with a unit that has +4 armor, because they just don't have the same kind of rating potential. They're not bad at rating, obviously, right? They're not bad at rating, but they're just not as good if you're used to playing with civs like Tatars or Huns or Cumans. Well, Cumans don't have the best heavy cav archers, but Turks, for instance, right? If you're used to doing heavy cavalry archer and hussar raids with those civilizations, just when you find, right, that your light cavalry are dying a bit more, need to be replenished a bit more, you'll understand why. So, all right. So what we were able to do is play it defensively, but then because we invested in a major Castle Age push, we took map control, we went back on the offensive and put our opponent on the defensive, and that meant that he never really got around to us, and so we were able to really recover from what was a pretty unfortunate start for us. So anyways, that's the game, right? I hope that there were some good principles and some good takeaways in here that are useful to you, and if you like, right, a fun cav archer game, right, then this video is definitely for you. If you like this video, hit it a like, follow the channel, right? We're a channel that is growing strong, growing good, and with that being said, right, I have a Parthian Tactics video that's going to be coming out in a few days, so be on the lookout for that. But otherwise, I'm Jimmy James 59, and I'll see you out there in the ladder. Peace.